Today I will show you the 4 different pricing strategies that I use to approach graphic design work. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Jenny Family-Arcano. I am a graphic designer helping other creative professionals arrange their ideas into actionable plans. Today I answer the question that I received from Mindy, which was, how do you base your rate? And for people who don't know, your rate is how much you charge working as a graphic designer. Now, just as a disclaimer, these are all the different pricing strategies that I use to price my work that range from side projects for friends and family to big companies. I use a combination of all these strategies together, so it's always best to figure out what works best for you. There's never a one-size-fits-all when it comes to pricing. These are just things that I've tried and I use them in combination with each other. So the very first one is hourly billing and sometimes day rates. The way that you would calculate your hourly rate would be figuring out what annual salary that you would like to have, dividing that by 2080 hours. The way that you get this number is by multiplying 40 hours per week times 52 weeks per year, and that's how many hours you would be working in a given year. This is probably the easiest way to get started, as it is probably a very easy transition coming from a minimum wage where you're working certain numbers per hour. There's a pretty wide range when it comes to your hourly rate, and it goes from $50 per hour to $250 per hour, and it just depends on a number of different things. Most of it is confidence level and how willing you are to execute that. If you feel uncomfortable, I would just start at a number and then gradually increase the more confident and more confidence you have in yourself. Well, one example of using hourly pricing was charging for a company for sketches for a logo, and they didn't know how many they needed. They just needed more hands on deck. So this was a really good opportunity for hourly because there wasn't really a strong end in mind. It's just like however many I could pump out in those hours. The second pricing strategy that I use is fixed pricing. And this is when you sell a lump sum for a finished project. For example, it would be a couple $1,000s for one infographic, and that's how you would sell it. The way that I approach this is by providing an estimate on how long it would take me to do the project. So maybe I would estimate myself working on a project and it would be 40 hours, and then I would times that by a secret hourly rate and provide that final price as my main one, and that would be the fixed price. And if I take longer than I had estimated, then I eat up that cost because that was failure on my estimate. But if I'm shorter, then I profit a little bit more. It depends on how well you know yourself and why hourly and tracking time is very important. One of the suggestions that I also make when delivering with fixed price is clearly defining what the deliverables are, because there's only going to be a fixed price. Say the project kind of expands, you're gonna want to be very clear about what the client is receiving. Otherwise, you can easily add too many more deliverables. An example that I used for fixed pricing was a logo project. I had included everything that the client would be receiving. That made it really easy to sell because they only had to pay a single price and they knew exactly what they were receiving. Pricing strategy number 3, retainer pricing. This strategy is very useful when you want to be providing some services on a regular basis. Some examples of this can include a certain number of social posts per month or a certain number of infographics per quarter or year. Just like fixed pricing, it's better to have an idea of how long a project like this could take. Otherwise, it might be, because it's such a larger amount and it's such a regular amount, it might take up more time. But normally I would only use retainer pricing for things that I know I can knock out. I have a good relationship with the client. There's very low risk involved when it comes to retainers because it's just wanting to help support them on a regular basis. And number 4 is value-based pricing. The way that I like to think of this is considering the risk that would come with the client or the project. And the amount of risk can vary depending on the audience So the amount of people that are going to be seeing the project. For example, having a mom and pop shop or a small restaurant, they have a smaller audience than a tech company that has a digital product and millions of users. Another level of risk is the final output. Something that is going to be available on a website that people have control of and can delete immediately has a different amount of risk than, say, thousands of packaging for a makeup brand where you need to have different languages printed, they have to be shipped, and if we find something wrong with the packaging, there's a lot of money to be lost. I use this kind of as a multiplier when thinking about both fixed pricing and hourly pricing. So it just becomes kind of a multiplier with the project, so there's less risk involved and then there's more risk. I use that as a multiplier for all the numbers that I use. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video. If you haven't already subscribed, stay tuned for the month of January where I answer questions just like this one, and I will see you in the next video.